Atul Subhash suicide case, the accused Nikita's mother and brother have fled their home. A video of them running away from their residence has been recorded and widely circulated on social media. On the 11th of December, a video of Bengaluru techie Atul Subhash's brother-in-law threatening a journalist also went viral on social media. The 34-year-old software engineer was found dead at his Bengaluru accommodation on the 9th of December. He had allegedly hanged himself, citing harassment by his estranged wife and her parents. Before his death, Atul left behind a 24-page suicide note and recorded a 90-minute video detailing the alleged harassment by his wife and her parents. Meanwhile, the matter has now reached Supreme Court. Advocate Alak Alok Srivastava has urged CJI to act on corruption allegations against Jaunpur judge. Taking to platform X, formerly Twitter, he wrote, and I quote, "I've requested Honorable CJI and CJ Allahabad HC to initiate action against Principal Judge, Family Court, Jaunpur in view of the serious allegations of corruption, bribery and harassment by Atul Subhash. Bengaluru police has registered FIR against Atul's wife and her relatives on the basis of Atul's note. Why no action against the said judge on the basis of the same?" And in fact, this was a tragic incident that came to light on the 9th of December. A 34-year-old techie hailing from Uttar Pradesh died by suicide at his Bengaluru residence. He left behind a 24-page note and a 1.5-hour-long video recording related to the reasons behind his extreme action. The note and the video went viral on social media, leaving netizens shocked. The techie, in fact, as per the note and the video recording, the techie accused his estranged wife and her family of harassment and filing false cases against him. He also accused his wife, her mother, brother and uncle of harassment. He also mentioned that his wife used their 4-year-old innocent son to extort money and maintenance there. In fact, Atul Subhash got married in 2019. They had a child together, and in the latest, Atul Subhash's in-laws, Nikita's mother and brother, have fled their home. A video of them running away from their residence has been recorded and widely circulated on social media. My colleague Kartikeya decodes if the anti-dowry laws are being misused in the light of tragic suicide of Atul Subhash. Take a look.
Makes the premise of our conversation. And these 4 points, the 4 questions I have raised, will be the perimeter for the discussion. And let me straight away go to Deepika Narayan Bharadwaj. So the first question I would like to ask you is dowry law, Deepika, effective? And we'll take all of them one by one in a round. To you first.
Kartikeya, I'm coming from very personal experience of the cases that I handle. I think dowry law has been effectively reduced to kind of a joke of a law in its current scenario. Let me first tell you that the initial laws that you shared are actually a lot of different provisions. There is Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. There is 498 of Indian Penal Code, which is now 8586 Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Then there is Domestic Violence Act, Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act 2005. Now, all of these cases, and dowry death is altogether a different provision, which is IPC 304B. I don't know what is the section now in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, but that's a case in which a woman dies an unnatural death and the complaint is made that she was being harassed for dowry. The law that we are talking about, or that was applied in Atul Subhash's case, was essentially 498A of Indian Penal Code, which has been slammed time and again by the high courts and the Supreme Court of India. And all of these cautions that you were sharing have essentially come in the pretext of misuse of IPC 498A.
Okay. So, okay, so you are saying
Now,
that, okay, no,
having
let's go
there
point
could
by
be
point.
cases
Deepika,
of the
Deepika,
law.
let's go point by point. So,
Yeah,
essentially,
that we can, yeah,
essentially, Deepika, please, there are other people. Essentially,
yeah.
essentially, you are saying that it's hard and it gets misused. Let me go across to Rekha Agarwal. Madam, the issue is, has it done well for the Indian women or has it not done well for the Indian women?
I'll answer the question both in yes and no. There was a time when this law was made for the first time, Section 498A. There was a reason for making this law when there were a large number of cases where women were actually undergoing what are called dowry deaths. The term dowry deaths came into existence only because at some point of time there were a number of women who would just die because a cylinder would burst or a kerosene stove would burst, and it would be passed off as an accident. But whereas the truth was that these women were actually murdered or harassed and suffered so much of cruelty at the hands of their husbands and in-laws, that a number of women, especially in the early years of their marriage, were facing this kind of a mental and physical cruelty at the hands of their husbands and in-laws. And ultimately, Section 498A, a special section was incorporated in the Indian Penal Code to face this particular problem of dowry deaths, where the deaths were occurring because of the demand of dowry that brides were facing, particularly newly married brides. But at that point of time, let us say that the scenario has certainly changed over the years. More and more women, and now living in a metro, I speak more for the metro women or the urban women. I do think that, and I'm not making out a case either for Atul or for Nikita, the complainant in the present case, but I would say that more and more women who are living in urban and metro cities do not really need the kind of protection that Section 498A Indian Penal Code, the erstwhile penal code, that was giving to them. Because now what is happening is more and more a compatibility problem, compatibility issues which are there in young couples, particularly. And and now once there's a breakdown of the matrimonial relationship between the parties, it's always as if all hell breaks loose. And as I say, there's no greater fury than a woman scorned. So it may be for any reason whatsoever, but when there's a problem, women do come out with a vengeance, and they have to go to the court. So now whatever sections are there in law, the lawyers will draft a particular complaint based upon those sections and bring the complaint around to meet, come within the parameters of that particular section of law, whether it be dowry prohibition law, whether it be 498A, or whether it be the domestic violence act, etc. So what I would like to say over here, that Section 498A particularly, which has time and again been used. At one point it was being used in a proper manner, but now, as a lawyer and with my experience at the bar now almost 37 years, I would say that yes, I do agree that there is a rampant misuse, and girls who are otherwise economically strong, and advanced, educated, they have the protection of their families. They're not bichara women, they're not abla
Madam,
naris.
crime against women to give them protection. But at that point of time, there were, I don't think the laws were gender neutral. They were, I think, gender specific. So, Ajit, coming to you, do you think that there is a possibility that there can be a political consensus to create a new framework for these laws? Because if you go by political impulse, after Nirbhaya, the laws were even toughened, they were hardened.
See, Kartike, it is impossible to fight this problem. It's almost like a gender war going on here. And if you hear how tragic the case was, and there are lakhs of such cases going on in the country, it's impossible to fight it simply through the judicial system, especially given the pressures on our judicial system. Our lawyer friend pointed out that, he got impatient. To be honest, most of us are impatient. In fact, anything that happens to us, we do not want to go to the courts, because we know, I know of friends who have entire career has been destroyed because they went to the court. So our court system is really, really outdated. I mean, cases go on for 30 years, 40 years, your whole lifetime and still don't get justice. So I think it's important, as you pointed out, we need a political consensus. We need a social movement to fight this ugly, picture of dowry, whatever, harassment, in this case, all kinds of domestic violence. You simply cannot fight it simply with changes in the law. And the other problem is you cannot have a differential system of law. After all, in the rural areas, I come from the Hindi heartland, in the villages in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, or wherever I move around during elections, I see dowry is such a big problem that families get indebted for their entire life. So obviously we cannot just keep on changing the law simply because some cases are, sort of not favoring men. Of course, the attempt should be to have a sort of unbiased law. The attempt should be to get fairness, justice as fairness. But how do you do it is a very difficult issue, and it has to be done only with the entire society getting involved, not merely changes in the legal system, I would argue.
Is men harassment a reality, Brijesh?
Oh, absolutely. And Karthikeya, I mean, I completely disagree with Rekha ji when he says that, she says that the gentleman concerned got impatient too soon. I mean, I can understand that, like, as a journalist, we go to people who are in power, so we know, why don't you approach them? Why don't you talk to them? She is a lawyer herself. But the point is that, if there are 10 cases slapped against you and you have to make, 20 appearances as per his suicide note from, Bangalore to Jaunpur court, and, when you are witnessing what he has described in his letter, the judge laughing at his misfortune and all. I mean, you can't blame, and, people are sensitive. It's not like everybody has that, the capacity or mental tenacity to take it to another level. People can feel bogged down.
All right, let's now take you through the latest development in the Atul Subhash suicide case. The accused Nikita's mother and brother have fled their home. A video of them running away from their residence has been recorded and widely circulated on social media. In some shocking turn of events, there you can see Nikita Singhania's mother, Nisha Singhania, and brother Anurag Singhania have absconded from their home in Jaunpur. The duo was caught on camera fleeing their house in Khoa Mandi of Kotwali, leaving behind a locked door. There Nisha was seen pleading with folded hands. The development comes amidst the ongoing investigation into the suicide case of engineer Atul Subhash, who allegedly died by suicide due to harassment by his wife Nikita and her family. The 24-page suicide note left behind by engineer Atul Subhash has brought to light the horrific harassment and corruption he faced at the hands of his in-laws and the judiciary system.